Bill Ames talked about process, and I want him to explain a little bit more about what type of process would he envision Ideapod to have. And this is, I'm going to be funny because I'm sure Facebook has a process, but we also have to keep in mind about all the types of users that use Facebook and all the different ways they use Facebook. And also Ideapod Spectrum, they will have a wide variety of reasons of coming to Ideapod. Different types of people, some are more communicative vocally, some prefer to write ideas. I'm getting out of my comfort zone every time I do one of these videos. I'm going to give you a peek into how I use social media, and it may be different than what other people use it. And I think for that very reason, you can't have a single process, or you have to simplify this process so it is multi-purpose. Being some of the key things to keep Ideapod the same, to build on depending on how it grows. So Facebook, let's start with Facebook. And I've already mentioned that I have more Ideapod followers than I do friends on Facebook. And the reason for that is I only include close friends and family, people I've known for years or I'm very close to for the most part on Facebook. And I have a few work colleagues. And I don't share too much on Facebook, just photos to stay in touch with these people and with family that I'm separated from long distance wise. I want to be a little bit funny with Facebook because thinking about this process, can we define the process that Facebook has so we can measure its effectiveness? Okay, so I'm going to be funny here. I think I know where Bill Ames is going, but I'd like to hear him elaborate a little bit more. So the process of Facebook, in my opinion, I join Facebook. I find other people who are on Facebook that I know. They are my friends, but not really my friends. And because of this, I don't post personal stuff so everyone can see. Or I use a filter so only certain people can see certain posts. And then there are people I block because I don't really want to see them in my feed, but they are still my friends. Really? What's the process in that? Then there's the whole honesty factor. Right now, Facebook thinks I'm a 94-year-old woman. Because way back when, I didn't want Facebook data mining me or selling my information to advertisers. And I found out recently I can't be a wandering mind on Facebook. It recognizes that wandering mind is not a real person. So, and they don't want me to use my nom de plume, be me. They want me to be me. So I'm me, but also share a split personality of a wandering mind under that same account. Then there's the whole pressure of putting a relationship status for people. What if that changes? Who would you want to know and when? What's the process in that? There is no user's manual for Facebook. So is Facebook an effective tool? Not for me, for what I would want to use it. Yes, I still use Facebook. And I occasionally get posts from my friends that I share, and I say friends because friends are acquaintances, work colleagues, and family. I mean, I guess my family can be also my friends, but and that I reshare here on Ideapod and Twitter. And basically what I'm saying with this is I glean from social media, but the interaction is not as much as I have on Ideapod. So LinkedIn also, I don't have, and it's just the type of person I am. And I don't, usually with LinkedIn, they are people I've known for many years. I'm very familiar with. I'm probably, for that reason, the worst networker. It's just I'm more of an introvert. So, and Twitter, I opened my Twitter account, I think at the end of April in 2009. And I wrote in a blog post about how this account remained dormant for the longest time. I felt as if I didn't have anything to share on social media. At the time, there were comedians posting funny things on Twitter, or people just posting these really mundane things about their daily routine that I would not want to share with anybody and put out there. I didn't think it was interesting enough. But then a few years later, I attended a conference and they invited people to tweet about their experience. And I think this is a wonderful tool professionally to share with the world. For example, in an educational conference, this was an ed tech conference, and to share your impressions real time with people, and then link it up to what kind of ideas are being shared in these conferences. So I use Twitter for the most part for professional reasons, to retweet articles I found interesting, to give these sparks of inspiration that I have as a writer, artistic smidges, like a photo or an image that really made an impression on me. I put fragments of poetry up on Twitter, links to longer pieces that I've written. And then I just recently opened an Instagram account. In all honesty, I don't see the purpose of Instagram. We all have seen what's been going on with Twitter recently. I don't think Twitter is going to go away, but it'll be interesting how it changes. And Instagram, I don't know. It's just the type of person I am. But I did recently open it because I love to take photos. I think I got a little bit of my grandfather, or a lot of my grandfather in me. If you've read about my grandfather and what I've written, he was a photographer. I a lot of times post my photographs on Twitter, and that's first I would only show photos in Facebook because it was more of a closed environment that I would share with people I was closer to. And I started sharing photos that I would take out in the field, literally sometimes, because so I have all these photos on Twitter, and and they're interspersed with other tweets that I've done. So I thought, well, why don't I just open an Instagram account, and now I have a photo gallery of all of my favorite images. And I have probably quite a lot of my grandfather in me, where not only was he a World War II photographer, but he also had this passion for photography, where we would always find him in family reunions, and that part of my family is a very large family, so he would always try to find these angles and perspectives, and you see him in all different positions trying to stage the scene to get the right shot. So here I am, I'm more out in nature, so I put together my own photographic gallery, just to have them all in one space, and just kind of review every once in a while these photos that I sometimes use as inspiration for my poetry and my short stories. Right. But then and also I have these landscape photographers that I can see in my feed that are like eye candy for me, to get more inspiration from, which is wonderful to see that professional photographers are using Instagram in that way. That we don't have just all these selfies on Instagram, but when selfies are, as we've talked on Ideapod, it's all about approach. In some ways, and I'm a very sentimental person, as far as Facebook goes, I share photos of myself and my children, for example, to keep in touch with my family that can't be with us close by. So that's more of kind of like the old school little locket that you had of a photo, and it's more it keeps people in touch with maybe what you were doing that day, and I don't know, share with people my perspectives of what I'm seeing, and maybe that sharing, just as an Ideapod, can take people in a different direction when they see something that I share, like me in a snowdrift taking a picture of a weed. And then my sister taking a picture of me taking a picture of the weed, which was a pretty cool shot, and just capturing that moment in different perspectives. And I'm a dreamer, so it's kind of like the different aeronautical perspective of that moment, different perspectives. Everybody has a different view of reality, sort of thing. I love this ability with our smartphones, how, and this is one of the issues I had with Sherry Turkle's talk, is, you know, she said we fidget, we seem to be anxious if we don't have our smartphone and we're in the waiting lounge and have to be on our phones. Well, back in the day when we didn't have smartphones, we had crossword puzzles, we had magazines, we had books, and we still have books, but that's all on your phone now. And if you have a quick question about something that you're thinking of, you can find it online. And it's not necessarily that, and I'm not anxious, and maybe that's because I'm a transitional, as Mark Smith would say, that I'm used to that life before smartphones, so I just think we see more people on their phones doing this, but in the past we would have been doing a crossword puzzle or, you know, doodling, but now we can do this on our phone now. And I do think there are some people who approach smartphones and get too obsessed with always being, you know, connected to that, and there is that lack of connection that you make with other people in physical space, knowing how to have a conversation with other people. But you know, and that whole, you know, part in her TED talk about texting, and that's not communication, that sort of thing. You might see little fragments of that on Ideapod, but I think the types of conversations that are on Ideapod are nothing like texting, those little short fragments of dialogues. I think we're having quite in-depth discussions about topics that are important to us, which is a lot different than just texting. Alone together, one of the issues that I had with Sherry Turkle's TED Talk was that she said we confuse postings and online sharing with authentic communication. One of the problems I have is those are the first steps of sharing. There are people who visit here, and I see them in my list of followers who have zero ideas. I created an idea early on called Vortex Zero to nudge those who haven't created an idea to at least create one and join in. Everyone is coming here for a different reason, I realize, with a different approach. So what is their process? That's my question. It's different than mine. So I guess the theme for me with social media is I curate a lot. And I hope that doesn't make me sound snobby, but I don't know if it's filtering. In a way, it's redirecting my attention to what matters most to me.